From here, I move forward very gently, place my hands here, and from here, I go up and very gently stretch myself up. This helps in the rebalancing.
Mr. Chatterjee, pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
We know that more and more people are exploring ways to improve their health these days, and two of the most popular practices that have stood the test of time are Tai Chi and yoga. Mm-hmm. They've been around for thousands of years and have helped people, calm their minds, strengthen their bodies, and to try to find this deeper sense of inner balance. Right. Now, as someone who's deeply committed to both yoga or breathing techniques and universal health, I believe you are the perfect person to share your insights on how, these ancient practices are connected. You've spoken before about how yoga and breathing techniques have enriched your life. We'd love to hear more about your experiences. So to start with, what first inspired you to take up yoga?
This is around 2019. My father died of a stroke. And so did my grandfather, by the way, die of a stroke. So quite clearly, it's in my gene pool. I used to eat a lot, I used to drink a lot, have lots of sugary food. I think it was in February of 2020. I was in Washington, D.C. I came to the lounge at the airport. And, I was just kind of browsing my iPad. And I came across a word called Bighu, which is a Taoist word for fasting. Let me just take a look at this, and I read that in these Taoist practices, there's this practice of Qigong, there's this practice of breathing, and there's fasting involved. Through the whole flight, from Washington, D.C. to Nairobi, I didn't touch any food, I just had water throughout the flight. I arrived in Nairobi in the evening, this was the following day, and, I was feeling actually quite good. That means I may have fasted for over 24 hours. So next morning, I started this breathwork practice. And I went on to 1 meal a day. And I started to exercise because I was about 85 kilos. And through this process in Kenya where this change started to happen. I mean, I was doing about 100 push-ups in about 3 minutes. Wow. Suddenly, everything started to change. And Gongju, the water was not all that cold, but as whatever the coldest was, I would have a shower in the cold water, because I came across this famous statement by Chairman Mao Zedong when he said that, exercise is very important, but at the same time, experiencing a certain levels of hardship like the cold is important. That's why he used to swim in the cold water. I went and saw his home in Shaoshan. So quite clearly, what I realized, that in this ancient practice of Taoism and in yoga, it's called pranayama. It's the breath work. So it's the chi and the prana, which is really the energy of the self, is where the magic really is.
Now, as someone who's been practicing this for 5 years now, as you said, what does it mean to you personally? Because we know that yoga and the prana, the life energy forces are deeply rooted in traditional Indian,
Chinese and Indian philosophies, 5,000 years.
Right? What does it mean to you personally?
Everything. So I think there has been a lot of intermingling which has happened over the last 5,000 years between these two civilizations. And therefore there are many common areas, whether it was the practice of drinking tea, or the practice of Buddhism, or the practice of breathing and wellness and exercise. It's all been there in our tradition. Because, for me, being an Indian born there, seeing that environment in which I was in, and then coming to China, suddenly, you wake up to a reality where your genetic blueprint comes alive. And having immersed myself now in this more studiously, I realized that actually for our own wellness and well-being, the solutions lie within. So when President Xi, when he announced the Healthy China 2030 initiative, that resonated with me. Because it was after that the UN came up with SDG 3 on universal health coverage. So in a sense, they commingle and intermingle with each other. The biggest threat to humanity right now is chronic diseases. Refined sugar is what is destroying our diets, destroying our health. So from everything from fastest aging, I mean, your viewers should know that sugar is one of the major causes for rapid aging of the face.
Yeah.
It's worse than cigarettes, but it's got the same addiction value as crack cocaine. But the issue is that these chronic diseases will rupture China's health systems, like it is doing many parts of the world. Today, if you look at the United States of America, just 5% of their population is in what is called good cardio-metabolic health. Rest, the food industry and the pharmaceutical industry are the two most powerful industries, and they commingle with each other. They are influenced by each other. So you eat and fall sick, you go to the pharmaceutical industry to get your diabetes or all that. Now you have weight loss drugs which are coming into the market. But these are artificial things. We don't know what the long-term consequences of our health are. Ultimately, the only thing that we can't buy off the market shelf is our health, and that is an individual responsibility. So therefore, President Xi's call for a healthy China 2030 is very consequential. I believe that if we make the right practices of embracing traditions of Tai Chi and Taoist practices and yoga into our way of life, I believe 70 will be the new 30. In 1998, 3 American doctors got the Nobel Prize for the discovery of nitric oxide. Guess what? The famous the ancient Taoist monks and the Indian yogis already knew that there is a chemical that their body secretes that protects them from disease. This nitric oxide is a vasodilator. It keeps our body in good shape. It keeps our blood pressure normal. When you have high blood pressure medicine, it is nitric oxide.
Right.
However, there's something even more important about nitric oxide. It's a signaling molecule for the cardiovascular system, and it sits in our nasal chamber. So, when these monks chant, it generates more and more nitric oxide. That kills any virus that comes in contact with you. Only if you breathe through the nose. But the problem is 80% of the population is breathing through the mouth. Breathing is the biomechanics, and the breath is meant to go into your stomach, which is where your diaphragm is. You exercise your diaphragm, and as a result, your core starts to become strong. And I started this journey of change at the age of 57. So I also want to tell your audience, it's never too late to start, but please start. And I think there was a particular logic in President Xi calling for a healthy China 2030, because he has seen that these chronic diseases will probably rupture not just the health system, but will keep the population unhealthy. We need a vibrant, healthy population which is aging, but at the same time fit for work, fit for purpose, be able to be productive.
Well, let's talk about mindfulness, because a lot of these ancient practices focus on the deep connection between the body and mind. Have you noticed any connection between perhaps yoga and Tai Chi in addressing this connection? Was there a moment that you realized perhaps that these two actually can complement each other?
Absolutely. So, I've lived a very high-stress life. High stress. Right since the time I was 20-year-old and a young lieutenant in the army. So, the stress levels over time build up, and it leads to chronic stress. And these chronic stresses take a toll on you. So, I started falling sick much more. I started falling unwell much more. The idea of mindfulness is to manage your stress. As Bruce Lee once said, be like water. And that's what keeps the mind in a state of calm. And this is why the practice of mindfulness. So breath work is very different from meditation or the practice of mindfulness. So the brain has 2 parts. It's called the autonomic nervous system. How do you shift the mind from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic response? Parasympathetic is the rest, digest, calm. So when you come home and you've had a tough day and you finally in the comfort of your home and you breathe a sigh of relief, that is shifting your brain onto the parasympathetic nervous system. So this is what hacking is all about. You biohack yourself. So I can go from a sympathetic nervous system response to a parasympathetic response in seconds, because I'm able to manipulate my brain now. But to calm yourself down, you just reduce the rhythm of your breath. So instead of, you go on to, and as you gently breathe, you'll notice that your body starts to automatically go into a state of calm. and it's also about positive affirmation. It is very important that when you're looking at a crisis situation, think positively and say you're going to overcome it.
So again, you have such a busy schedule, you're always under a lot of pressure, but even that, you could still spare some time to practice the breath work and practice some yoga and Tai Chi. How does it help you, and how could people who are interested in doing so pick up the practice?
It's about habit. Now it's a lifestyle for me. If I don't do it, I just feel uncomfortable. It doesn't matter where I am in the world. Even if I'm in a plane, look, the breath is free. You don't need a gym to go to practice breath work. You can do it anywhere. But we can modulate and hack our brains to make sure we are in that state of calm. When we are in that state of calm, we create harmony around us. All of the practice of Tai Chi, of Qigong or yoga, it's about non-violence. Non-violence is not about the fighting.
Yeah.
It's about harmony.
We are living in this fast-paced world, and it seems that being able to slow down and find inner peace can be a luxury sometimes. People know that they should take a deep breath to calm themselves down, but a lot of people are missing the beats.
Yeah.
So again, this mind and body connection, how could people use these practices to help them manage the emotional as well as the psychological state?
It needs a multifaceted and multidimensional approach. It's just the way that China ended poverty in 4 decades. I believe that we can actually achieve a healthy China 2030, because if China can achieve it, the rest of the world will follow. And I'll tell you why. What is most important is political will. We need to make sure that right down from the top to the bottom, there is this desire that we have to get healthy and fit, because the population is aging. By 2035, China aspires to be a moderately prosperous society, putting about 800 million people, currently at 400 million who are middle class, bringing about another 400 million people up. But ultimately, to come up, you have to have strong health. And once you have good health, let me quote President Xi here. He said, "Health is a prerequisite for a people's all-round development. It is a prerequisite for a nation's economic and social progress." And health is about lifestyle. It's about food. It's about breath work. It's about exercise. It's about movement. Exercise is movement, just movement. And it is about heat and cold exposure. Cold exposure, people think, if you go out into the cold, why did Chairman Mao go into the cold river to swim? Because we need the yin and the yang in our bodies. It is about the balance.
We understand that the United Nations is putting an increasing emphasis on sustainable development and overall human well-being. Having said that, we've discussed this Tai Chi, yoga, and other traditional breathing practices. How do they contribute to the broader picture of human health worldwide? I
think today a lot of our science is based on very strongly focused on the curative side, on Western medicine. Gradually, increasing amounts of research which is taking place at Stanford. Andrew Huberman, who's a famous neuroscientist in Stanford, who speaks very robustly about the importance of breath work and wellness. All these things are coming from the Asian practices, all the practices which are here. What we need is today some of the best research on fasting is actually coming out from Chinese scholars. So I think it's a matter of now, again, it means revitalization of the World Health Organization, which is under a lot of stress. But we have to make this shift that West is right. We have to bring the right balance. Again, it's about the yin and the yang. We need both. We need the modern medicine, we need the curative side, but we also have answers on the preventative side. It's right here. How do we merge this together? How do we bring the best about our society? And this is where I think countries can work much better as a multilateral system. Health needs a multilateral approach. It needs a community-based approach, starting from the household to the national level, but it also needs nations to collaborate. And now with the advent of AI, that gives us a huge advantage with artificial intelligence and integrating that both with the ancient practices and with modern medicine, we would have many solutions. But I believe that today we can be at the cusp of a health revolution, of achieving not just a healthy China 2030, but a healthy world 2030, which is what the SDG 3 is all about.
Yeah. So this idea of a global community of health, how can traditional practices like the ones that we discussed, yoga, tai chi, and other breathworks, contribute to the establishment of such a community for mankind in terms of health?
I believe that we would value China's leadership at the World Health Organization on this. There is a lot of recognition on the importance of traditional Chinese medicine and its effects on well-being and wellness. I consume a lot of Chinese traditional medicine just to keep myself in superb shape. And let me tell you, I have never been fitter than what I am right now for the past 62 years. I feel the complete equilibrium of mental, physical, and emotional health. And that has been because of this practice. I believe that China, India can play a very important role of reshaping the health ecosystem. The shared future of humanity is also based on the well-being of the planet, the well-being of health. So therefore, I think once we start to focus on that and revitalizing health systems on the preventative side, everybody would benefit because the knowledge is right here.
It is indeed a very holistic approach.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You have a very demanding job and you deal with a lot of pressure, but still you manage to find time to practice breathing and yoga in your office in between work.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you could, show us some yoga postures that's suitable for beginners. Guide us through some of the simple processes.
Well, it's not about yoga, it's about exercise, it's about movement. But what I can show to you, which I've only learned in the last 5 years, so age 57, I learned how to do a headstand. And when you learn how to do a headstand in yoga, it's called the Shirsasana, which means the queen or the king of all yoga asanas. When you reverse yourself upside down, what happens is blood flows to your head, to your brain, to your face, and that's what keeps the energy flow. It strengthens your core. It has multiple benefits of keeping your brain sharp, your body in good health. If your core is strong, even if you trip, you're able to regain your posture. But when the core is weak, when you trip, that's it. You fall and then you have a major injury. It's a matter of starting. But gradually and gradually, you start to build up your core through the practice of breath work, through the practice of exercise. And this will then help you to achieve the headstand quality. Like I said, anybody can do it. And once you master the headstand, you have actually mastered many parts of health and wellness.
Show me your magic.
Sure, happy
Thank
to.
you.
Okay, so the beauty of the headstand is it could be practiced anywhere. So I'll just give you a short demonstration of the headstand. I do it 3 times a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon to kind of get my energy levels to calm down a bit, and once in the evening before I go to bed. And it really helps me to rebalance. So here it's very simple. It's to kneel down here. I take a few deep breaths. From here I move forward very gently, place my hands here, and from here I go up and very gently stretch myself up. And you hold this posture for a little while. It could be a few seconds or a few minutes, but this helps in the rebalancing. And from here, very gently down, back here, to your knees, a few deep breaths.
Wow. And speaking doesn't affect the fact that the chi was flowing to your head.
No, it just calmed me down. It's instant. It's instant calm.
And you could do that for a few minutes?
Yeah, I do it for about 5 minutes.
Wow. With no support?
No. And like I said, anybody can do it. Initially, it is better to do it with support. So, first to put the head down, take that kneeling position forward, and gradually build it up. So it's taken me a few months to learn it, but like I said, anybody can do it.